Welcome back to another Games That Do Not Suck. And if you're wondering why I'm wearing American flag cut off like Larry the Cable Guy, it's because I went shooting today. It's kind of warm, and this is my shooting shirt. Yeah, because America. Fucking guns and freedom, baby. Pow pow! And it was a damn good time. Had a blast doing it. Love putting some bullets through some guns downrange. Nothing like it. Get some good old gun safety. I had some people out with me, ran them through the ropes of what I prefer when I like going shooting with people. I'm real particular about gun safety and such, but you're not here to hear about me shooting. That's another guy. You go watch somebody else for that. You're here to hear about games that don't suck, and I'm going to tell you about games that don't suck. That's damn right. And today we're talking about Shadow Warrior number 2, the third in my trilogy of Shadow Warrior games. I did them in a goddamn mismatched and muddled order. Yeah, I'm ending with Shadow Warrior 2. And this one's the worst one of the three. Does that make it a bad game? Absolutely not. So before you're like, well, if it's a bad game, how does it a game that doesn't suck? You know what? Shut up. You ate my daddy. I will beat you down. I'm just kidding. That sounds like a lot of work, and I'm not down with that. But it's a fine game. It has really, really fun shooting mechanics, like insanely fun shooting mechanics. It's got really like fluid movement, and it has a lot of things it does right. Now, before I get into all the stuff it does right, I want to talk about my gripes with this game. So, unlike its previous counterpart in the game that came right after, this game is a completely different style. I mean, each one of these games plays completely different than the last. It's not a game with continuity, one would say. This game's all over the goddamn place. The first game was your typical movement shooter from the 2000s. It feels like it. It runs like that. It's a step up from the older like boomer shooters. So it kind of sits in this weird niche where it's a shooter. It knows what it wants to be. It does its thing. Shadow Warrior 3 is a Doom clone, like a Doom Eternal clone. Not like Doom 2016 clone. Not a Doom 3 clone. Not any of the Doom clones. It's a Doom Eternal clone. And it does it really well. The only problem I had with that game was it was too short. Now, this game wants to be a looter shooter. Big problem with me and looter shooters is I like them, but if you're not going to have like a very fluid switching of guns throughout the game, I'm gonna kind of get a little bored. Not that this game got me bored, but it was just I was looking for the missions that gave me a new gun. I felt like the gun variety in this game, even though it had more guns than the other two games probably combined, I felt like it was lacking in variety. There were some guns that I didn't get a new variation of it until the very end of the game. And it just, it really puts you in this weird position where you're like, oh, I'd really use the automatic weapons, but they only gave me 2. It's bullshit. It just, the guns that you do get are very, very good. They look really cool, but there's not a ton of variety when you're talking about the looter shooter genre. And that's the problem, is this game is stacking up against games like Borderlands. One other thing is this game has an awful UI. It's absolutely atrocious. And the enemies, because it's a looter shooter, are very spongy. So what that meant was I dropped the game down to easy about halfway through, because I'm like, I can beat the game this way, but this UI is too much. The enemies are spongy, and I just want to enjoy myself. And once I dropped it down to easy, this game became fucking amazing. My ball hairs stood straight up, clapped their fucking imaginary hands, and sucked back down because the game became fucking amazing. It was a really fun time. And the enemies stopped being incredibly spongy. They were still spongy, but like I wasn't dying and then going back to them and then shooting them for 4 hours, like running around for ammo because you never have enough ammo, running back, running out of ammo, dying, running back. It was just like this awful. You were always running out of ammo, and you knew that if you died, you could go far enough back and then kill a few small enemies on the way. It just got really grindy. Once you dropped it down, the enemies got super manageable. Now, it did come with a caveat. Like I said, you don't die. So, you have the capability of dying, but it's incredibly hard to die because your health is just like bounce back up. And it just never really fully it was almost dropped it too easy, but I mean, I didn't want to spend 15 minutes on every enemy. It's the same problem I had with Spider-Man. I'm not going to talk about this game in a perfect light. When I looked at Spider-Man and I was like, the enemies suck. It was like 30 seconds per enemy. It felt grindy. I'm going to call it out. But like I said, the shooting in this game is just like, bop, 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 jump, bop, 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 bop. And it's really fun, and that's what pushed me through the game, because the story, even though the story is, it tells a decent enough story in this game, it's not as good as Shadow Warrior 1, which secretly had tons and tons of heart, which I wish I would have spent more time on that in my review of Shadow Warrior 1, because the ending caught me off guard with how much heart that game actually had. And Shadow Warrior 3 kind of did the exact same thing, although I think it needed a little bit more to stretch the story out a little bit more. I felt like it could have added more to that story for context and stuff for Shadow Warrior 3. Even now playing Shadow Warrior 2, I felt like Shadow Warrior 2 ends and it just is an easy caveat into 3, but it doesn't add context into 3. With Shadow Warrior 2's biggest problems with his story is it leans too heavily into the comedy. Now, I enjoy a lot of the jokes because I have the mind of a 12-year-old sometimes when it comes to humor. I still think the Naked Gun movies are cinematic masterpieces. But you look at you'll have like a serious death in the game, right? Not gonna spoil, but it's a shooting game. People are gonna die. Grow the fuck up. But you get to these situations where somebody's sad, and then it's like, really, Lil Wayne, a dick joke? And it's like, bro, it gets a little heavy-handed, and I think a lot of it doesn't land because Hoji, the guy that hangs out with you through all of Shadow Warrior 1 and all of Shadow Warrior 3, Hoji isn't there as your home slice. He isn't there riffing back and forth with you, having this tit for tat, or there's tete-a-tete or something French and stupid snail-eating scumbags. But you don't have this back and forth tit for tat humor. You have this new girl that's there. I don't think I showed much of her in my gameplay in the back. I didn't want to show too much of the story because I do think you should experience these stories. All three of them give you something. But with her, I felt like it was lacking. Now, there was some other cool stuff with the demons and whatever, but I still think there was stuff lacking because Lo Wang never really had somebody to bounce off of. She was always like, really, Lo Wang? And I'm like, you're hot, but you are annoying. So when it comes to the story, that's just... It felt like the weakest of the three in almost every single way. It's like how people talk about the Dark Souls games, right? Dark Souls 2, everybody's like, it sucks. It's a stupid vagina face. It's like the movie Teeth. Do you want to fuck that pussy? I don't think so. It's stuff like that, you know? And people then are like, well, I mean, it's still a Dark Souls game, so you kind of want to fuck that pussy. You got to feel how those teeth are on your shaft. You know, and that's just how this game is. If you like the Shadow Warrior series, this is a very fun one to jump into. A lot of times it is bundled with Shadow Warrior 1. So if you see that bundle, you see it on sale, buy it just for Shadow Warrior 1. And Shadow Warrior 2 is a really fun bonus. My suggestion, though, drop it down to easy. That's all I got for you guys today. I know you guys want to see more of my hairy arms and want to braid it into your mouths, but I can't stay on any longer, guys. You're going to have to grow up. But leave a comment, leave a like, and subscribe to my channel, you goddamn idiots.